Good afternoon, President, distinguished guests, and graduates of this fine institution. I'd first like to apologize for not being able to be there in person, as I've been called away to consult on an issue for the United Nations. I would, however, like to thank the University for bestowing upon me this honor of addressing you as you begin a new part of your life, even if I am 1,000 miles away. Trying to decide on a topic for a convocation speech has been an incredibly difficult thing for me to do. What could I possibly talk to you about that would inspire you in your future endeavors? I considered talking about my work in international law, which is a growing and complicated field. However, I decided to talk about something else, something greater that you will always be thinking about as you continue on your lives in the legal sphere. One of the main focuses of legal studies is trying to establish what law and justice are. From what I have come to know through my experience of studying international law, philosophy, and working with the United Nations, this question will never fully be answered and is not exactly the same for all people. Law is a very vast and complex field, and defining what it is will be different for individual people. The definition of law is something that can only be ever truly defined on an individual level. Many legal scholars have different views on law, and I'm sure that you and the person standing beside you have different views on what law and justice are. It is not something that you ever stop learning, and I encourage you to keep your minds open to the view of others. I urge you to use those views and your own personal views to develop a view on law. I know through me, for studying law and philosophy, my views on law and justice have vastly changed. When I was an 18-year-old bright-eyed undergraduate law student, I believed law to be a concrete, single-minded thing. There was a right and a wrong. No gray area, nothing in between. I believed that I was going to serve justice and punish those who broke the law. And by doing so, I would make the society that I lived in a better place. I was going to make a positive change in society. However, through sitting through my many lectures, interacting with many professors and peers, my views have vastly changed. Even now, through working with the United Nations, my views on what law is change on a daily basis. Law is viewed in society to be a concrete and definite thing. Law is commonly known as rules regarding behavior with a penalty for breaking them. Some laws dictate compensation for those who have been wronged by others. Laws regulate how to make contracts and wills, and courts decide if a law has been broken and the appropriate punishment for breaking such a law. Laws are made by the legislature, which in our society is a democratically elected government. That is what law is, nothing more and nothing less. At age 18, I held the same view as society. It was something that I learned through my family, the media, and even in school. I did not know any better. However, as I continued in my studies, I realized something important. Law is much more than society has taught me. Law is complicated, and cases are not just black and white. Not everyone who goes to jail should be in jail. Justice is not always served. I have learned that there are doubtful cases that go against the societal definition of law. The field I currently work in can be considered one of these doubtful cases, as it lacks a legislature and there is a lack of effective systems of sanctions. There are great strides being made in this field, and it arguably can be recognized as a legal system. However, effective or ineffective it may be. I realized that I could not solely base my opinion on the definition of law on what society believes law is. I realized that law is too complex and vast of a field to completely understand what exactly the law entails. I believe it is a goal of many legal scholars to develop an understanding of what law is, and I encourage you to do the same through your legal career. Do not just take what society says law is at face value. Develop your own understanding of law. Never stop learning. It's your greatest tool. I would like to expand on an ideal of law, which I believe is important when developing your own understanding of law. This is the relationship between law and justice. If one were to take law at face value, they believe there is a concrete connection between law and justice. When one is punished for breaking the law, justice is said to be served. I sure believed that when I first entered into legal studies. But again, as I learned throughout my many years of study, I am realizing now that law and justice are not always connected. I realized through my studies that the concept of justice is not so much collected to law as I once thought. I realized the idea of justice has to be freed from the concept of law. Justice is really just social happiness, and will continue to be as long as happiness is defined on an individual level. Thus meaning that justice is different to every individual and cannot be entirely connected to the law. This is further reinforced for me by those doubtful cases of law that I had learned about throughout my studies. The right person does not always go to jail, as in the case in wrongful convictions. Justice cannot always be fairly served when there is a lack of system of sanctions, as presented in international law. I recognize that because law and justice are both concepts that can only be defined on an individual level, only you can truly define what they are for yourself. One thing I hope you can take away from this is that law is subjective, different for every individual. I have come to develop my basis of what law is through my study of legal philosophy. I believe it's important for legal studies students to study this, in order to develop their understanding of law and what it could be, but it's also a subject that other students could use to develop their understanding of law and justice. One's view of law and justice can help develop their understanding of life. I encourage everyone here to never stop learning, to never stop developing a sense of law and life. You will never stop. You need to be open to the opinions of others and take them into account in developing your own understanding of law. I'd like to end my speech to you with a quote from William James. "From the philosophy which is so important in each of us is not a technical matter. It is our more or less dumb sense of what life honestly and deeply means. It is only partly got from books. It is our individual way of just seeing and feeling the total push and pressure of the cosmos." Thank you for your time, and I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.